video is an introduction to autonomic nervous system. The outline of the presentation will include the divisions of the nervous system, organization of autonomic nervous system, the neurotransmitter of the ANS and the receptor types in the ANS, the effects of ANS on various organ systems. Divisions of nervous system. The nervous system is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system constitutes the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls various involuntary body functions such as breathing, blood pressure, heartbeat, dilatation and constriction of blood vessels, small airways in the lungs called bronchioles. So the autonomic nervous system is a control system that acts largely unconsciously, that is, it is not under the voluntary control. Therefore, it is termed as auto, that is self, and nomos, that is governing. So it is a self-governing body. It is different from the somatic nervous system, which is under voluntary control. The autonomic nervous system innervates and regulates cardiac muscles, smooth muscles, glands and internal viscera, whereas somatic nervous system innervates the skeletal muscle. Organization of autonomic nervous system. Autonomic ganglia. What is an autonomic ganglia and what is a function of autonomic ganglia? Autonomic ganglia is a cluster of nerve cell bodies at the autonomic nervous system. These are the sites at which information is transmitted from the central nervous system to the periphery through synaptic transmissions. The nerve fibers that emerge from the central nervous system to the ganglion is known as the preganglionic nerve fibers. The nerve fibers that emerge from the ganglion to the neuroeffector junction is the postganglionic nerve fibers. Autonomic ganglion is of two types, sympathetic ganglion and parasympathetic ganglion. The sympathetic ganglion lies close to the spinal cord in the paravertebral chain, whereas the parasympathetic ganglion is located in or near the effector organs. Next, the preganglionic neurons have their cell bodies in the central nervous system and synapse in the autonomic ganglion. The preganglionic neurons of the sympathetic nervous system originate in the spinal cord segments, that is T1 to L3, and so it is termed as the thoracolumbar outflow, whereas the preganglionic neurons of the parasympathetic nervous system originate in the cranial and the sacral segments of the spinal cord, and therefore they are termed as craniosacral outflow. The cranial outflow is carried out by the 3rd, 7th, 9th and 10th nerves, whereas the sacral outflow is carried out by the 2nd, 3rd and 4th sacral segments of the spinal cord. It is to be noted that the sympathetic preganglionic fibers are shorter in length compared to the parasympathetic preganglionic fibers. So why is it so? This is because the preganglionic sympathetic fibers emerge from the central nervous system and synapse in the ganglion, which lies close to the spinal cord in the paravertebral chain. So these nerve fibers are shorter in length compared to the parasympathetic preganglionic nerve fibers that emerge from the central nervous system and project to the ganglion that lies close to or in the effector organs. So parasympathetic preganglionic fibers are longer compared to the sympathetic preganglionic fibers. So the next question is, why is the sympathetic system faster than the parasympathetic system? The sympathetic system is faster than the parasympathetic system because of the following reasons. Firstly, the preganglionic sympathetic fibers tend to synapse with a large number of postganglionic fibers, which in turn have diffuse ramifications at the neuroeffector junction. Whereas in case of parasympathetic system, the preganglionic fibers tend to synapse with very little number of postganglionic parasympathetic fibers, and also the ramification of postganglionic parasympathetic fibers at the neuroeffector junction is least diffused. Hence the area covered may be less. Therefore, the sympathetic system covers a larger area, it has more diffuse ramifications, and also it synapses with a large number of postganglionic fibers. Therefore, the sympathetic system is faster than the parasympathetic system. The adrenal medulla is a specialized ganglion of the sympathetic nervous system. The preganglionic fibers synapse directly on the chromaffin cells in the adrenal medulla, and the chromaffin cells secrete epinephrine, which is 80%, and norepinephrine, that is 20%, into the circulation. Neurotransmitters of autonomic nervous system. Parasympathetic neurotransmitter. In parasympathetic autonomic nervous system, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter at all autonomic ganglionic synapses, regardless of whether it is sympathetic or parasympathetic. Secondly, all postganglionic parasympathetic fibers release acetylcholine at neuroeffector junction. As an exception, the postganglionic sympathetic fibers to the sweat glands, although it is sympathetic in origin, is cholinergic in character, that is, they release acetylcholine at the sweat glands. So this is why during stress, anxiety or apprehension, when the sympathetic system is activated, there is increased release of acetylcholine by the sympathetic postganglionic fibers to the sweat glands. The innervation of the sweat glands is sympathetic in origin but cholinergic in nature. Sympathetic neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitter at the sympathetic ganglion is acetylcholine. In general, all postganglionic sympathetic fibers release norepinephrine at the neuroeffector junction with few exceptions. The exceptions are: 1. The postganglionic sympathetic fibers to the sweat gland are sympathetic in origin but are cholinergic in character because the neurotransmitter released here is acetylcholine. Secondly, the postganglionic sympathetic neurons to the splanchnic and renal blood vessels release dopamine. So they are sympathetic in origin but dopaminergic in character. Receptor types in the autonomic nervous system. The receptors of the autonomic nervous system are classified as adrenergic receptors and cholinergic receptors. The adrenergic receptors are divided into alpha and beta receptors. The alpha receptors are further subdivided into alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptors. The beta receptors are further subdivided into beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3 receptors. The cholinergic receptors are divided into nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors. The nicotinic receptors are further subdivided into NN receptor and NM receptor. The muscarinic receptors are of 5 subtypes, that is M1 to M5. Of these receptors, M1, M2 and M3 are well characterized. Next is effects of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The two divisions of the autonomic nervous system, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic system, produce opposite effects. The sympathetic system prepares the body for a fight and flight response in case of a potential danger. Signals are sent through the nerves to the adrenal gland, which pumps hormone epinephrine into the bloodstream. Epinephrine causes the heart to beat faster, pushing the blood to the muscles, heart and other vital organs. Pulse rate and blood pressure goes up. Breathing is rapid. Small airways in the lungs opens up and lungs can take up more oxygen. The extra oxygen is sent to the brain, increasing alertness. Sight, hearing and other senses become sharper. Epinephrine triggers the release of blood glucose and fat from storage sites in the body, providing the body with a burst of energy so that it can respond to perceived danger. This combination of reaction to stress is also known as fight and flight response because it evolves as a survival mechanism, enabling people and other mammals to react quickly to life-threatening situations. This helps someone to fight the threat off and flee to safety. In case the stress is chronic, hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone which stimulates the pituitary gland to release adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is ACTH. ACTH travels to the adrenal gland, prompting them to release cortisol. When the threat passes, cortisol levels fall. The parasympathetic nervous system then dampens the stress response. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, controls processes in the body such as digestion, repair, and relaxation. When the parasympathetic nervous system is dominant in the body, it conserves energy, slows the heart rate, increases digestion, and relaxes sphincter muscle in the digestive tract and is responsible for elimination of waste. So in general, the sympathetic nervous system results in activation or stimulation, and the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for inhibition or relaxation.
These are my references. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share.